Christian, welcome back to Fearless in Devotion, and welcome back to me, who I've been away for the last couple of weeks. I'm sure no one's missed me. Liam's got a new room. Take us through your new room, Liam.
Basically, my lads moved into probably the biggest room in the house because why would your 4-year-old not live in the biggest room in the house? So I'm now in his old room, just giving it a bit of a paint job. So yeah, been evicted.
It happens to the best of us. Once went to uni and came back after the first year and found my sister in my room, and I was in the box room. No recourse, just the way it is. We're also joined by friend of the podcast, Mark Creighton, who will talk a bit about preseason and so forth. So Fat Ball, they sponsor it. Go and eat there. It's great. I'm no Andrew Pollard, am I, on this?
The Fat Ball exists.
Yeah, the Fat Ball, it's a thing. It's real. Go there. It's nice. Also, we do a newsletter. Let me share my screen so you can have. Oh, actually, we don't need to do this anymore, do we? Sometimes he gets the PDF, he gets the QR code up.
Yeah, we've upgraded. So
all right, well, fair enough. Just get the newsletter. It's really good, please, and it keeps us all in food. Right. It's been a bit of a quiet week, but I think the big thing is they've got on the plane to Australia. But Liam, Mark, were you thinking there may be a few more additions before they made that that long journey? Because it's going to be tough to bring anyone in and really integrate them now, isn't it? They're going to be away for about 2 weeks. So we brought in Ward, who we'll talk about later. I know Mark knows really well. And we brought in Ryan Hardy. Liam, were you expecting any more?
yeah, I thought we might have got a couple more in just from the point of view of getting people bedded in, but I'm trying to think how many people we got in before previous preseason tours. I mean, I know we weren't necessarily the quickest off the mark with signings in previous years. So from that perspective, it doesn't concern me too much. It's just one of those though. You see, I know we're not going to be spending in the same bracket as Birmingham, but you see some of the players that they brought in this week, and you start feeling a bit not itchy, but just I just I'm greedy bastard basically. I just want to see some big boys sign.
Mark, is it hard to integrate a little bit later? Say if you do sort of join a club quite far into the preseason, does it take a bit more time to find your feet?
It can do. It depends on your scenario. I guess if you've got if you're talking about a free agent who is clubless at the moment and they're probably training on their own, doing their own little bits and bobs, that you can't replicate what you do within a unit. So I would certainly expect a fair bit of catch up, which then can have ongoing consequences. Catching up to the current fitness levels of the actual squad itself, because that would be hard. But football's a small world. You generally always seem to know a couple of lads where you're going within a team, so that can always help because they'll support you and help you bed in. Obviously, introduce you around to the people. You mentioned Wardy. He only was it Tuesday? He was announced this week.
Yeah.
He's had I think he's had 3 training sessions this week, and then he's on a plane, all the way to Australia with the team. So good timing for him to spend some time. You'll get to spend a lot of time with your teammates. I think it's 2.5 weeks they're away for, like you say. There's a lot of travelling involved, so they're going to be in each other's pockets for long periods of time. And I know we'll get to it, but I think that's quite key. I think Parky likes that because Danny did say that he'd only been in the dressing room, 2 or 3 days. He came round and had dinner the other night, and he said you can really, really, really comes across as how tight they are. And I think we all know that. We've all seen that it comes across. But he said he couldn't quite understand just how tight they were. And I think that's credit to Parky. He's very, very, he does his due diligence on his players. He really, really goes over them with a fine tooth comb. Danny said himself, he had a conversation, an hour and a half conversation with him on the phone while he was over in Portugal at his own wedding. just chewing the fat and talking about things. And I guess Parky was just sounding him out. Is he a decent kid? Is he a nice lad? Can I get on with him? Because all the other bits he'll know, do I want to sign him? Is he good enough? All that sort of side of it. But I think he really does focus on the person, which I think is quite key. Because I'll be quite honest. I watched us a good few times last year, and I don't think we were brilliant. But what we were a real solid unit, and we found a way to win. And that don't come unless you've got a really tight dressing room. It just doesn't happen.
No, you're right. And Birmingham's done a lot of business. Charlton have done some good business as well. But there is a sort of school of thought that if you rush 6 or 7 new players into this squad, it will erode what has made us so successful in the first place. And that is having a great morale of people who will do anything for each other because they've been through it together. And if you add in quite a few in quick succession, you could erode that. I think the other sort of thing is now you look at the Championship. Liam, do you think with what's happening with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and Hull City? So Sheffield Wednesday seem a bit of a basket case at the moment. Hull City are under a transfer embargo. Oxford, other teams that are in or around there. Do you think there's a chance that our likelihood of staying up has increased? In the last week, not really for anything that we've done, but just what seems to be happening in other parts of the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about some sort of quite big Championship level, and in some cases, ex-Premier League sides who are suddenly looking down the barrel of a pretty dodgy financial situation. I mean, one minute, I mean, we'll move on to transfer rumours, but 1 minute we were being talked about as rivals of us to us for Lewis O'Brien. The next minute, they're under a transfer embargo, albeit talk about appealing it. But you've got a few sides who it's also a bit of a cautionary tale, I guess, really, because they've been chasing it, trying to get to the Premier League for however many seasons, and it just shows what can happen if you don't spend your money wisely. I think for us for now, it's it's decent news. Yeah, I don't like to do well at other teams' expense if they're suffering off the pitch, but I do think it does increase the likelihood that we can stay up and perhaps push even further up into that mid-table. So fingers crossed from that regard, but I think we've got to do it, off our own backs. We can't rely on these teams not to do well or anything like that.
Well, sometimes there's a siege mentality, and that might happen at the likes of Sheffield Wednesday. They may all really come together and start the season really well. I mean, remember when back when we had our points deduction, it gelled. We won the LDB Vans final. It was quite an experience for us that really sort of galvanised us. I think looking at the pre-season, Mark, can you sort of take us through? They've been back for I think 2 weeks. How does that like pre-season work? Are they being monitored over their holiday period, and then will they come back? Is it just a straight case of run up and down a pitch, or is it a little bit different now? Do you think?
Football's evolved, mate. It's much more different to when I was throwing up in pre-seasons. That's for sure, and that happened regular. By the way, I am definitely not built for running, and there's an element of we're rolling back the years now, 15 years since I was in the mix of all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But players now, they keep themselves fit all year round. They're not drinkers. They don't live, these lifestyles that I probably did when I was a player. It was a bit more loose then. So when you do come back, you are a little bit out of shape, and you do need, to have that kicked out of you ultimately. So there is heavy running involved, but there's so much sports science involved in the game now, where Parky will have a team of people saying just how much or just how little people should do, and that might be different for different people as well, because they can read their body stats, they can read how fatigued they are, they can read all sorts of data now, which assists the manager in how much he has to work them. So it's very different, but a lot of the stuff now is done with the football, and you can you can work just as hard with a football in pre-season, as without. And obviously, it's much more realistic if you're doing it with a ball. So
Right.
it's very different now, mate. It's very different. Would I want to be travelling? I mean, yes, there's an element of it where you'd be going, bloody hell, Australia, take some of that. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Would I really, really want to be travelling that far away? And it's just a long way to go, and I feel like it might be that little bit disruptive. Like a couple of seasons ago where we had the America trip that wasn't quite planned out so great, and we didn't start the season very well because I didn't feel like we looked like we'd been tested enough over pre-season, like we'd worked hard enough over pre-season. And that carried into the start of the season, and we looked like we were playing catch up with other teams. So I hope that there's been some thought given to just how much travelling's involved, because we're doing New Zealand as well as Australia, aren't we?
Yeah. That's a 6-hour jaunt as well,
Exactly. So it's very, very much bums on aeroplane seats, and moving around the different parts of Australia as well, which can take hours in its own right. So I just hope it's been, and I'm sure it has, it's been carefully thought out to make sure the players get enough time on the grass, they get to work hard enough. Obviously, they're going to get to play games, and hopefully they're competitive enough. What will be nice for them, and I said this to Danny, it's currently winter time in Australia. There's a bit of rain. It's not too hot. Whereas over here, it's typical pre-season weather that you dread when you're a footballer, that it's absolutely melting degrees outside. The grounds are all hard and dry, and you're playing some pre-season friendlies at sort of lower league opposition, and their pitches aren't so great, and you start going, oh my god, this is terrible. But it's going to be a lovely, again, they're quite used to it now. Some of them, I think they're going to have a lovely experience over there, and it's another part of the world to conquer, right? Let's get some more fans over that side of it.
No, you're right. I mean, I think that's where Wrexham are, isn't it? They have to do these trips. That's part of the USP of this club. They've chosen Australia because there's a big market for the documentary out there, and also America with the World Club Cup. It's more difficult to get games out there. So I can see why they've done it. I think they're probably looking to. I think they've gone a little bit early, but I think they've done that with the idea that they can come back and still have maybe 2 or 3 home matches.
And I think that's what's needed. That's the bit where you can really have some testing friendlies, where you're going to have to ramp up your effort levels to ultimately maximum to get you ready for that first kick of the ball in the season away at Southampton, which is doesn't get much tougher. So I mean, but you look at the fixtures when they came out. I mean, every single one, you go, oh, blooming hell, look at that one as well. Oh, I want that one. Oh, I want that one. Jesus, that's a tough start. But
it was also a tough middle and a tough end because
that's where we are now. Every game is tough in that league. And that's something Danny was saying. In my kitchen the other night, he's saying Championship is, in his opinion, he said it's the best league out there. He loved it. There's loads of games, really competitive. There's good quality teams and clubs in there. He's thoroughly waiting to get going. He cannot wait. He's found a bit of love in football again, which is nice to see. When you can tell one of your friends has fallen out of love with it a little bit, given his scenario and what sort of happened. It was nice to see a real big smile on his face the other night.
Oh, that's good. No, I was at the cricket yesterday, and I was talking to a Leicester fan who said that they really like Danny as a person, and it didn't go well for him in the last sort of couple of months at Leicester, and they could sort of feel for him a little bit. But it is nice that he's sort of coming back in again and is ready to really enjoy his football. Mark, talking about Danny, do you know how the move came about? Has it been something in the pipeline for quite a while?
We've often joked about it, and this was more. It started when we got promoted to League One, and I knew he was coming to the end of his sort of agreement at Leicester in a couple of years, and We'd obviously been and done a couple of games together. We went to the Notts County away, and I was saying, hey, wouldn't it be great? We get promoted to the Championship, and actually, that timing would be perfect when you leave Leicester and you can come and sign for Wrexham. But that was just a tongue-in-cheek comment a couple of years back. But he's always said he would love to come back, absolutely love to come back. To the point, I honestly, and I would never, as good a friend as he is, I would never talk about money, never talk about, what was the discussion and things like that. I can pretty much guarantee that Parky had the easiest negotiation on his hands.
Yeah.
Danny's, in his own words, he's been very fortunate with his career. He's earned very good money, and he's earned the right to get that sort of money. The games not coming, haven't panned out when he was signed by Leicester because Casper was going. And then that fell through, and then all of a sudden he's now number 2 when he was going to be number 1, and he's been signed on number 1 salary. So there were circumstances around it, but I don't think Parky would have had to have twisted his arm too much and had too much negotiation. I think Danny, I said it before, I think he fell out of love with football a little bit at Leicester, and it can happen. It can happen in football for sure. I think this move has reignited a bit of flame in his belly, to kickstart his career again, and actually show people why he's played 40 odd games for his country. And I don't really think I've ever seen him have a bad game at international level. So if that's the level and caliber of keeper that we've got to come in and challenge Arthur, then I think that's mint. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, no. I mean, you say fire in the belly and you say challenging Arthur. Where do you sort of see it? Do you think Parky sort of said to them, look, there is no number 1. You just go and prove yourself. It's like Formula 1 drivers. You know what I mean? Is there a preferred sort of driver?
I'll tell you this. Parky didn't have to say that because Danny said, I ain't coming here to sit on the bench.
Right.
And Parky loved it.
Yeah.
Because you know what Parky wants? He wants players that are going to test each other, push each other to their absolute maximum and fight for that shirt. Whether you're a keeper, a fullback, centre-half, midfielder, striker, you have to have somebody making sure that you are the best you can possibly be every single day. And that's what Danny said to Parky. He said, I'm not here to sit on that bench. I'm here to play, and I'm going to be your number 1. That's what Danny said.
Right. That's good. Good.
I think that's brilliant.
I mean, Arthur's been brilliant for us, and his stats last season were fantastic. But the lad is still untested at Championship level. He's a young keeper. He will make mistakes, but you can see a massive potential there with Arthur. But it could be that sometimes he does need to come out of the firing line, and then it's up for. I would expect Arthur to start, but I think Danny will get his chance, and then it's up to him.
The other side of it is everybody talks about Arthur as a young keeper with massive potential.
Yeah.
And the only way you reach your potential if you're pushed.
Right,
so hopefully Arthur's now got on that plane going, okay, well, I'm going to have to do a little bit more now. And every day he's going to have to do a little bit more. And then all of a sudden we've got a world-beating keeper and somebody backing him up. That's the other way it can go. Arthur can get even better by having that, that competition for his place.
Yeah.
And Danny's experience to help him, because Danny's a nice lad. He'll help Arthur. And if Arthur gets the nod over him, then Danny will shake his hand and say, fair play to you. I'll keep pushing you.
Yeah. And there's the other thing is we don't know if Arthur's going to be called up for Nigeria, if he's going to go to the AFCON. I don't know if that's something that the club know about behind the scenes or are working towards, but it's another element, isn't it?
Anything can happen. Football's mad. Touch wood. Injuries, anything can go on. See, Parky's got to build himself a squad of players that can handle that level. That's it. Yeah. And then it's all on them to fight for that. They'll all want to play on opening day away at Southampton. It's on them. Go and earn the right to put that shirt on that first day.
Yeah. Now, you know what? It'd be great to have a Wales international again. We haven't had one for so long. And the other great thing is, we get the international breaks off, so you can go and go watch them. I'm pleased with Danny. I mean, we've had him on the podcast before. He's a cracking lad.
He's a fan of the podcast. He loves it.
And I know the sort of criticism about, oh, he's a bench warmer and all that. I know that's hurt him, and so now's the time to prove that he is a number one goalkeeper. And as we say, that can only help Arthur out. Liam, should we go through some transfer rumours? I'm not going to play that music.
Yeah, don't play the music. It was nice last week, not starting out my segment and then some bastard starts playing. I like to move it.
He's remembered to do it.
That came on at a kid's party, and I had some sort of deep-seated reaction to it, like recoiling in horror. So that's all thanks to you.
Oh, this is what I'm like when Tim sings. So
yeah, the main one this week, and it seems to have been confirmed by most sort of paper talk now that Lewis O'Brien, we have had a bid of 5 million accepted by Nottingham Forest. The main sticking point is his wages. Supposedly he's on 35k a week at the moment. I don't really know what our what our offering is, but if you believe the talk from people like Alan Nixon, he's saying that we're offering, say, in the region of 20 to 30 to players. So my take on that was, I was wondering if, when you drop down from the Premier League to Championship, surely you've got to expect not necessarily a massive hit, but a little bit of a hit on his wages.
Well, yeah, maybe. But the other thing is, then can that be made up with bonuses?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Your basic may drop, but there's a promotion bonus. There's quite a goal bonus. I mean, as sort of what a player he is, he's like a box to box midfielder, isn't he? He's like a pretty energetic fella, and I think he was really liked at Swansea when he went on loan last season. But that fits the mold. Do you remember that Les Reed article a couple of weeks ago about who they were going for? Now, I thought they were going to try and pick up some Premier League free transfers, a 32-year-old, a 34-year-old, something like that, to maybe have one last hurrah to get us into the Championship. And I thought that would be quite a short-term aspect to do it. But if Ryan and Rob want to keep this club going on that upward trajectory, that might be a gamble that they were looked at. Now it looks like they've done completely the opposite, and they are going for players in their prime who have Championship experience. And I think Ryan Hardy's a good example of that. Mark, you shook your head a little bit when I said they may go for aging Premier League players want last hurrah. Did you not think that was anything that they would do?
No, nothing to do with that. Because I think it has worked for us, from time to time with certain individuals that we've had that have helped us get to where we've been. I personally think, and this might be the reason why we haven't had any new additions before the trip, I think you'll see Parky go into the loan market.
Right.
This year, I think we will be a very attractive loan proposition for a lad at Everton, a lad at Liverpool that's going to come to a Championship club and play Championship football, so at a great level, but with all the song and dance that surrounds us as well. Yeah. That's a tester for a player. So you can go to other clubs and they can get the experience, but I think what some of the Premier League clubs will like is that, especially if you look at a Liverpool or an Everton or someone, up the northwest, it's local for a start, but it's all the press around the club. That's going to set them up to deal with the press that they could potentially have when they go and play for a Liverpool, play for an Everton. I think that'll be attractive for managers of those Premier League clubs to send their talent out to us. That's where your scouting networks really, really got to come in. And good decisions have got to be made on it, because if you're going to take them, you're going to be paying a large slice of their salary.
You've got to play them.
And ultimately, that normally comes with the caveat from the parent club to say they have to play if they're fit.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get a diamond, they're going to go, he has to play every week if he's fit.
Yeah.
Because that's why the parent club will be doing it, not to send them out to just get experience of sitting on a bench at a Championship club. They're going to want to test them.
Yeah. No, I get you there, and it's not something.
So that's my thoughts. I think we'll see a bit of loan activity.
They tend to make those decisions sort of quite late in the window, like the parent clubs.
Yeah, because those players who are on the fringes of like breaking into their own first team will be given a summer to go, come on then, let's have a look at you. Let's see what you can do for me. And it might be that they go, do you know what? He's exceeded all my, we're keeping him with us because I think he's going to play a part with us. But it might be that one that just doesn't quite make it. And they go, okay, right now, we're 2 weeks left to the end of end of pre-season where we're going to start the real McCoy. Now we're going to look for a club for you. So I think a loan would come a bit later. Certainly after most clubs are now either en route or thinking about going away to their chosen destinations to have their tours and things like that. I think it will happen after that, in all honesty, because that would then still give 2 or 3 weeks for them to bed into their new team, get some sessions under their belt, and then start the season nice and fresh with their new members of their team. So I would say something like that would happen after this trip.
Yeah, I mean, Parkinson's got form for that. When he was Bradford manager, he took a few Premier League loanees. He hadn't had to do it with Wrexham, really,
No.
because the money's been there to
Correct.
get a settled squad. But now, if you want that X factor, I think you have to look at you like your Jaden Dans or maybe Kumas or something like that who you could bring in and add something different to the team. There has been some other names bandied about. These are more experienced. So Craig Dawson, released by Wolves, as that name's come about again. He's 35, but obviously incredibly experienced. Barry Bannon from Sheffield Wednesday. Now, I talked to my Sheffield Wednesday mate about him. He said he can still do it. He's a brilliant playmaker, but he's quite set on wanting to stay at Sheffield Wednesday because he wants to help the club through what is quite a difficult period. And I think he's made his thoughts on that quite clear, and that's proper club legend behaviour.
Isn't he one of the players who came out this week, and I commend them, but I think it was him that said, I want all of the non-playing staff to be paid before I receive my salary. I'm sure it was one of them that said that, and you got to tip your hat to that. Fair play.
No, so I appreciate that. Other names that have been bandied about. Bobby Clark, who was a Liverpool youngster and went to Salzburg, Red Bull Salzburg. I think he's Lee Clark's son, was very highly rated, but is looking to come back to the English game. And then Cameron Brannigan, who is Oxford captain, I think. Mark, you're our Oxford expert, having played so many games for them. What do you think about Brannigan? Would he come? Is he good enough?
Oh mate, I'd have him all day. I'd have him. He's Oxford's Paul Mullin. They love him. He's worshipped there as a hero. He's a Liverpool lad, so geographically it may make sense depending on whether Listen, in football, it isn't always just about what you want. He might have a wife and kids that are now saying, look, we want to get back closer to home. Things change in life, so maybe something like that would make it an attractive move for him. He'd be on good money. I think he signed a brand new deal last year only. The only thing I would say with Oxford at the minute is they're about to be kicked out by the Kassam. I think they've got another season there, and they've got to find a new ground. So I think there's going to also be some ground sharing when they're in the midst of building a new ground, because it's not going to happen overnight. I don't even think they've got permission or bought the land yet, so it's way behind. So maybe he's looking at something like that. I don't know. I'd take him all day though. He's proven at this level, scores goals galore from midfield. He's a very, very talented lad. I think that's a wide chance, but yeah. Nice to hear us being linked with these sorts of players, though.
Oh, definitely. Here's one for you, Liam. So Louie Barry looks set to go to Hull on a permanent deal, 3.5 million. It's not going to happen because of Hull's transfer embargo. Should we make a move and boil some Stockport piss?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, There's all this talk. If you believe Stockport fans, he'd never play for you. You know, he'd never play for you.
What a load of shit! You only really
yeah.
right?
Well, guess what?
Never retired the shirt, have they?
Oh, I know exactly. But it's like, money talks in football, and he doesn't really give a crap about whether Stockport fans hate Wrexham. What's it got to do with him? If you could get him, I would, because I just thought in that sort of attacking midfield role in League One, he looked cut above. There was times, I think it was perhaps in the away game against us, he just looked unplayable, and he had that bit of extra. It reminded me of, I guess, a bit like Elliot Lee in the National League, an attacking centre mid who just looked too good for that level. And I do get the impression Parky's looking for that type of play. We talked about Brannigan. I do think we need it. I think we need someone to push for that sort of Lee role. So yeah, if we could get Louie Barry, it's a no-brainer. I mean, how much did you say the fee was? 3.5?
3.5,
yeah.
That's a steal. That's a steal.
Also 50% sell-on fee, and they were quite insistent on that. So obviously they think that this guy could go on again, and they want to cash in. But Creights, is that where you would see him play? Because he's sort of like a winger at Stockport, but would he sort of be the attacking part of that midfield three?
I think that's something we've lacked, and I 100% agree with Liam. I think Elliot was that player at sort of National League, League Two, where he could just make something happen. He'd get the ball in a little pocket and he'd chop somebody, and he'll then put somebody through on goal, or he'd reverse pass one into someone that no one else saw it, but they did. I think that's something we haven't had since those sorts of days. I guess it really depends on the style. Are we going to carry on with the style that we've been playing? Because we don't typically sort of play through the lines and get the ball into a number 10 area. We tried to do it a couple of games last season where we tried to play Elliot Lee in the 10.
Yeah.
And teams just nullified the space, and you couldn't even get him on the ball. So that's where Parker would have to. I think if he was going to sign someone like that, he'd have to almost be signing them to build the team around them. Almost to say we're going to change our whole style of play here, because you're going to have to then move other bodies elsewhere to create that space for someone like Louie Barry to actually get on the ball. Because if they don't get on the ball, then they can't do what they do. So I'm not quite sure if it fits our style, how we play at the minute. I think we'd have to have a bit of a change up in the style, but nice to be able to do, have the two styles, because I still think that style of, a little bit route one sometimes works. Works. Football is a very, very simple game that gets complicated by managers and coaches. Sometimes you just have to get the ball forward, get the seconds, cross the ball into the box, goal. How many times did we do that last year?
Yeah.
And I know we won us games 1-0, and
I know we're stepping up, and we were great against Sheffield United over a couple of games, but when we went to Blackburn, their sort of quick, skillful players took us apart. And I know there's a few goalkeeping errors, but that's what we've got to look out for in the Championship. Really, there's you can't really go ahead after 9 minutes and then defend for the next 90. Someone will pick you up. You do have to have a bit more of a go, I think, really, to do it.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I like the fact we're going into this season having had a really, really good, solid defensive record last year, because that will set us up nicely. I think if we can continue with that, we were, how many clean sheets did we get last year? Yeah, it was a ridiculous amount, wasn't it? If we can roll that on and carry on that form, then that bodes well, because you're right, we will get peppered at times.
Yeah, and maybe that's what he's looking for. I mean, you look at that defensive unit. Max is, he's the great white hope for us. I think Lewis Brunt will get better, and I think the more games he plays, he'll get better. So it's the centre of it now. Owen O'Connell has been fantastic for us. but we have to sort of have one eye on is that step up again going to be hard? Same for Dan Scarr. So maybe that's why he is looking at the likes of a Craig Dawson to be that center person with the runners around him who he can instruct and tell where to go and help, basically.
Yeah,
Mark Creighton role. Remember you and
I could never do that. Yeah, I feel that like experience will be key. Certainly, you know, in your centre back position where they have got the experience, they can move people around. I always remember speaking to my old skipper Jake Wright when I went back to Oxford a couple of years ago for a little testimonial game, and he was telling me when Michael Dewberry came in at Oxford and played alongside Jake. And Jake was an experienced player. You know, he played a lot of football. He was obviously my captain when I was there. And he said, but Michael Dewberry was just like different level. He literally would move him within millimetres of where he needs to be. And he said it just made my game so much easier. But, you know, that comes from a top player that's played at the, you know, highest level in order to do that. So, yeah, they might not have the legs anymore, but, you know, your brain doesn't get tired and neither does your mouth, never gets tired. So someone like that could make a big difference to us. Be interesting to see if we play a 3.
Whoa. Are you suggesting that Parky may move away from a 3-5-2?
Don't know. I just don't know whether, given what you said before, and rightly so, teams, you know, like Blackburn, will bop you around. You know, and if you've got big space and gaps in behind you, you know, and pace of centre forwards at this level, you know, you could get exposed. You know, so will he? I don't know. Will he stick with? I honestly don't know. I should have asked Danny the other night, shouldn't I? Will he stick with a 3? Will he try and change it to a 4? Will he do a bit of? So when you might start seeing it when you see the games in Australia. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if a couple of them there's a back 4 trying to just have a look at it.
Yeah, you should have done a Dean Saunders and like offered him some biscuits, but laced with something to bring the truth out of him a bit. Yeah, salt and pepper pots on the dinner table.
Yeah, should have done that season. Just don't tell him, and I'll get him back round again when he's back.
Yeah, we'll record it. We'll go undercover.
Yeah, just block him. Just block him from viewing any of this.
Right. I think there's a bit of any other business, really. So Callum Burton was re-signed, or did he? I didn't think his deal was running out anytime soon. Do you think he's had improved terms there? But anyway, that's the goalkeeping free sorted.
Whenever something like that happens, for me, I would say he would be a bit miffed that Danny's come in.
Yeah.
That would be my first thought, because he would probably be eyeing up, I'm going to be number 2 this year.
Right.
Yeah.
He may still well be number 2. I'm not saying he isn't, but I think that will be a bit of a kick in his nutsack, seeing Danny come in. So whether or not it's a sweetener from the club to say, no, you're still on our radar, kid. Like, here's a new deal, bit more money. We love you. You are sticking around.
Yeah.
Right. The flip side of that is I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that then, or someone like that go out on loan. Okay. So here's your new deal. Here's some more money. That tells you I love you, but I'm going to go and give you some games.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a position where we're
so I read between the lines, and I get that. What I read from that.
That's how you keep people happy, isn't it? You know, because that's the biggest. It still amazes me that Parky's done so well at that as he has, because, you know, now we've got all this competition for positions. That's you're right. Actually, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. That sort of thing could be key to keeping Callum Burton on side, keeping the changing room sweet.
Yeah. I do wonder about the loan though, because I think he'll want a 3 who will train together, who will be the group, who will push each other. Yeah. And so Luke Nicholas has left. He's joined Forest Green Rovers. Yeah. I think Jake Bickerstaff has he gone to Oldham? Is it?
He's been seen in a training
trial.
Yeah. There was a picture of him on their socials, and you could see him on. I think pretty much everyone knew it was going to happen, but that basically cemented it, confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about that, training kits. So I think obviously they've flown out to Australia, and they had a really quite natty kit. Let's see if I can.
I quite liked that. Yeah. The shirt. There's been pictures of the. I can see, and oh yeah, there we go.
I think this is from our friend Will. Will Sudworth put this on.
I quite like that,
Yeah, I like the badge.
Yeah.
And I like the zip. I quite like the sort of.
You like the zip?
I like the zip.
To be there, sat at home like this.
Yeah, everyone knows I'm a sucker for Zip. I mean, Zip is my favourite character on Rainbow. Absolutely, absolutely love it. But it's nice. It's nice. I like the colour.
Yeah,
like
colour's nice.
I'm not sure about this these little sort of red pockety things at the bottom, but I'll need to see it. I'll need to see it up close for that. But there, that looks like the new training kit. We just need an actual kit now, don't we? Now that United have been confirmed as
pictures have been taken. We know that much. Yeah. Pictures have been taken of the home shirt and the turf. There was a little photo shoot, but I think they're ramping up getting the store on Eagles Meadow ready because Liam Stokes-Massey's been in there painting on some top secret projects. So I think it's going to look really good. You'd never think that Wrexham would have almost like a United mega store for people to go to, but I think it is. We are talking on that. It's going to look the real deal, basically.
Great. Well, that is good because we've always needed that, and it just becomes another reason for tourists to come and visit Wrexham because you can actually get some nice merchandise now rather than worry about if the shop's open or what they've got. A few other things. Now I know Liam, you touched on this when I was away last week, but the season ticket row about people who pass away losing their season tickets and not having a recourse to send them on to family members. And now I know that's a very emotive subject, and I know that the club have released a statement on it. Liam, have you got that there?
Yeah, firstly, just to say thanks to the people who have given us, commented on this and given us feedback. So there's quite a few good comments on YouTube. I won't run through them all, but the club comments that they've released says, we're always saddened to hear the loss of Wrexham fans, especially long-standing season ticket holders. Fully understand that in some cases there's a desire to pass the ticket on to family members, but they've got set a ticket policy now that they believe is fairest for all. And they're basically saying it's due to the incredibly high ticket demand, large number of season ticket holders. That means that they've been unable to sell them for 3 years. And they don't allow the transfer in any circumstances to prevent a closed shop, in quotes, ensure everyone has a fair chance to attend matches. So we do take personal circumstances into consideration, and they'd allow a seat move where one member of the group's passed away to ensure family and friends can sit together. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, at least we know, or at least it sets out the rationale, because I think that was one thing that was absolutely.
This is the thing. I mean, the club still don't or are not proactive on stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like the fan zone, it's a lot more reactive than explaining a decision before it hits social media and it's already erupted into something that maybe they could have sat down and talked to fans through first and explained their rationale. Now, for me, I mean, I'm coming into this a bit late, but I can understand the club wanting to pass season tickets on to new people. That's how the club survives. That's how the club sort of gets more people and new people interested. But if you've got a situation where you've got 3 people in a row and they've sat together for that amount of time, and the centre season ticket is they've passed on, surely there's got to be, I don't know, maybe a panel to sort of look at that. How many times? How many times is this going to happen a season? It's not a huge amount. If we're talking about 5 or 6, maybe can you not just look at it as a case and go, all right, well that one no, because because this person sat, they weren't with their family, but this one maybe yes. And Geraint could maybe be the judge on it or something like that. Something fair like that.
By all accounts, he's the man that has been doing that sort of on the quiet over the years, from what I've been told. So, he's a very fair-minded guy, as we all know. So I just think a good bit of common sense has to come into it every now and again.
Yeah, Yeah, I know. And I think this
It's a
will
family
change.
football club. It's a family football club, and we try and portray that as best as we can on Disney Plus, right? And that, in my opinion, comes completely away from that. Nobody's saying, give them open book and say, yeah, you can pass it to your mates if you want or whatever. No, it's, direct family member, son, daughter, wife, whoever, and you've got, 48 hours to make a call and decision. If you then don't want it, it's then going to go back onto the, into the open market. And like you say, Andy, how often, this isn't going to happen very often.
No.
It's not going to happen very often at all. Just have a look at it. Didn't even need an announcement. Just have a look at it in its own right and just make a call. Nobody would know. So you're not going to upset anybody anyway. But do we even have a waiting list of people?
I mean, I don't know.
No, we don't.
So how do they know who's next to get one then? If somebody's been waiting 3.5 years for one, like are they first in line, or do they just go, right, everybody ready, fingers on your clicker on your mouse, we're going to put it live, and you got to.
I mean, you know what? That's what Liverpool, Everton have. They have a season ticket waiting list, which you probably pay to go on. So that may be another way that the club could make some money there, and then eventually it will work through. And when season tickets become available, because people's circumstances do change, not just passing away, but also jobs and things like that. You move away.
Yeah, can't go anymore. Can't go anymore. Need to pass that on.
Yeah, and that should be the sort of the legitimate way that season tickets get changed to new fans, and I do understand that. I think that's it. Liam, anything else we need to mention? So the youngsters were playing in Canada today. Were they playing Halifax Warriors? Was it?
Yeah, sorry, you've caught me off guard there. It was a 3-0 defeat for us, but it looked like a really good crowd actually. I think there was something like 7,000 or 8,000.
Nice.
Yeah, a few familiar faces from Wrexham. Big Al from Miners was there, but also just some people who wanted to get a look at any sort of Wrexham team from over in Canada. So that's got to be a good experience for the young lads, really. Because you don't get
amazing. You ain't getting that. You're not getting that here.
Yeah,
so, to go and play in front of that sort of size of crowd is brilliant experience for them, and fair play. Go and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I think they were up against. So the Halifax's team, it was their under-21s and it was our under-19s, so there's a bit of an age difference as well. But again, got to be good experience for them. You want those tests, don't you?
No,
absolutely.
So Wales women have started their Euros campaign. Unfortunately, they lost 3-0 to the Netherlands. And just finally, just our condolences to the family of Diogo Jota, which was horrible news to learn on Thursday, I think it was. By all means, you just look through social media, and he seemed like such a nice fella. There's like a video I've just seen of him playing football with kids in the street in Liverpool. He just seemed a completely brilliant.
Have you seen the video where he did his own sign? He did his own press for his signing when he was in the taxi on the way to sign his papers at Liverpool, and he did his own. He filmed himself because there was no media to do it, so he did his own little blog of it. It's lovely stuff, really, really nice, and he comes across as just such a lovely fella.
Yeah.
Deeply, deeply, deeply saddening.
Well, I heard someone talking about his time, even at Wolves, and they were basically saying so many players would see Wolves as a club, as a stepping stone. He never saw it as that, he was going to be there and give it a proper go, and saw it as an honour to play for Wolves. And the fact that he ever got to Liverpool was just, a massive plus for him. So, what a bloke, and obviously thoughts and condolences out to his friends and family.
Yeah, no. Right, great. Thanks so much for this, guys. Really enjoyed it. By next week, we'll have all those signings done. They'll all be on a separate chartered plane out to Australia, and that's it. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys.